Hi, I'm Graham from Second Era of Moles, and if you've clicked on this video accidentally, 90 seconds is all I ever ask. Welcome back to another week that was on Pokemon Masters X. It was a Christmas week. We had a Pokemon Day in there. We've had a few nice introduction scenes when you log into the game for the first time. Also, we've had the Champion Stadium, as always. We've had an announcement from the Masters team. There's been 3 events ongoing, including the Villain prelude that's just launched. So let's get into the weeds, shall we? So for this week's Champion Stadium, let's start with round 1, where you get a sync move countdown reduction. Bruno was weak to water types, so I went with a big water type striker in Archie and Kyogre. I went with May as a sort of secondary striker, and Jasmine and Steelix as my support there. I didn't have any healers and I wasn't planning to do any stats reductions, so that's why those two are included as options. You start off using Open the Oceans with Kyogre. Jasmine is raising defense because that feeds into her sync move. May is using either Muddy Waters or Ready for This. Kyogre's also got the opportunity to raise its special attack before that first sync move, which goes to Jasmine, being that 6x support. It's always good to get that boost in there early. From there, your strategy really is the same through the rest of the battle. You're using Origin Pulse with Kyogre to do lots and lots of water damage. With May, you're either doing Muddy Water or you're doing Ready for This to give you a move gauge boost. Similarly with Jasmine, you're either doing Gyro Ball as an attack or you're doing Clang to boost that move gauge again, and also to provide that crit and stat reduction protection. When Onyx's sync comes, because it comes early, it didn't hit too hard. I don't know if that's because of the defense raises that had already been done, or because it just didn't have time to power up, but it was a bit like, okay. You've hit me with your best shot, and I've taken it very, very well. For the next few sync moves, I gave it to May and Swampert. It was partly because I felt that it was stronger as a sync move than Kyogre's, especially in the rain, and also because I wanted to get that Mega Swampert onto there. I like how it's flexing its muscles, and it's going to be more powerful when it attacks. The gradual healing that I'd put onto the enemy team made this one take longer. It was healing at about 3k damage per round, but when you've got Kyogre and May and Swampert both doing about 10k damage each, then it's not too much of a delaying tactic, so we just flood the board with this one. Absolutely bloody flooded it was! In round 2 you get a physical attack boost. I chose to go against Lorelei with this one because I thought she was mainly going to be using special attacks, and then I could come in there with my big physical electric striker in Agatha and Zeb Streaker. God, there are a lot of very similar sort of sounding syllables in that one. So the team was Agatha and Zeb Streaker, Volkner and Luxray for that electric terrain, and also Hop as my support in there. I started off with Lily as my support for the first couple of attempts for this one because I thought, well, Lorelei's going to use an evasiveness, and so I want that accuracy boost. But then I had a little bit of a reread of Make Some Sparks, which is Volkner's trainer move, and that gives an accuracy boost anyway. So I thought, okay. So I switched out Lily for Hop because Hop gives a defense boost with Hop to it. It's also got potions, and even though I had healing down, I thought that it would be a nice little addition in there. So for this one, Zeb Streaker only really has 2 modes. You've got it doing Spark for damage and to raise its speed, or you're using Electrify just before a sync move to guarantee that crit hit. Also does a little bit of healing, which is nice. Volkner starts off with Thunderfang, and then you should set Electric Terrain. I didn't because I had a bit of a brain fart moment. I thought, oh yeah, I don't need to use it yet. I've got a 6x support in there, thinking I still had Lily, but I didn't. So I had to waste a move before the sync move to set Electric Terrain. It was just a bad situation. So you're also doing Thunderfang to try and get a bit of flinching damage in there. It also does a punchy bit of damage by itself. Hop is using Hop to it, and either Metal Claw or Behemoth Bash, depending on whether it gets that free move So hopefully your sync move should fit in a bit more neatly than mine did. It goes to Electra and Zeb Streaker. It should take out one of the sides, leave the other side with just a tiny little bit of health in there. So when you get back into the main flow of the battle, again Zeb Streaker's using Spark. Volkner is using Make Some Sparks to give that accuracy boost that helps everyone. Through this phase with Hop, I was mostly using potions because obviously they do less healing. He was taking some quite heavy hits as well, so it was just sort of try and keep him topped up to protect Volkner and Elisa from taking those bigger hits, which those two might not survive. So you're going to need to reset electric terrain before your sync move. Also get that Electrify in there for that guaranteed crit on Zeb Streaker. I did take a sync move from Lorelei because I messed up the timing a little bit, and it hit quite hard, but luckily I had my sync move coming quite soon after, and that was powerful enough to get the knockout. On to round 3, where you get a special damage reduction. I took on Agatha for this one. I was planning on using Morty as my main striker, and his really big moves are physical. I took a bit of a risk here though, because I went with Lunala as a second striker in there, and then I rounded it out with Phoebe as my support. As I said, it was a bit of a risk, but it paid off really well because Lily is an absolute beast, and Morty and Phoebe both being 6x for me, they more than hold their own in this battle. So with Lily, you're starting off with Shining Moonlight, and then you're using Moongeist Beam to do a lot of damage there. You're mainly using Moongeist Beam with Lily all the way through. The only other thing she has is potions, and you shouldn't need to use those too much. With Morty, you're using Pierce the Veil. You're hoping for a few refreshes there as well. If you don't get them, you can use his crit hit increase. With Phoebe, you're raising that crit hit rate for everyone, and then either a Shadow Punch in there or an Unbreakable Bonds to get down to that sync move. It goes to Phoebe as she's a 6x support. Again, always useful to get that in there early. After that sync move, more Moongeist Beam from Lily does a heck of a lot of damage. And because it was doing so much damage, I was quite confident that I could use trainer moves with Morty to get him as powerful as possible. And then when I had run out of those, I could use Phantom Presence and not be worried about wasting a move and, you know, not getting that second sync move in before Agatha got her first one, because it's just so much damage being outputted between those two. So I was very, very confident I was going to take it out before its sync move. And I did. I even managed to get an attack into the Miss Magus on the side as well, and that took that down to very low health, and just got in there with one more move to take out Agatha before her sync move. With Moongeist Beam being a 4-bar move, that obviously takes a lot of your move gauge. Thankfully you've got Phoebe in there with Unbreakable Bonds. I luckily got quite a few refreshes on that through the battle, so I had a 4-bar move on demand whenever I wanted it. The move gauge refills quite quickly anyway, so it's not like you're like, oh no, I've got no more refreshes, this attack is doomed to fail. And it mostly comes in handy if Miss Magus uses Will of the Wisp, because that'll do burn damage. If you're using Shadow Punch for attacks, you're going to take damage onto Phoebe, and you don't really want that. But I got down to that second sync move and I gave it to Morty because I knew it was going to take out anyone. I could have given it to any of the three really and still won the battle, but it was like, boom, boom, we're done. Let's get out of here. Let's run along now, as Agatha would say. On to round 4, where you get a sync move stats boost. Lance was the final member of the Elite Four to take on here. He was weak to dragon types, so I went in with a team of Skylar and Swanna, Cyrus and Palkia, and Champion Iris and Hydreigon. So for this one, I wanted to make sure I had stats reductions and healing on full, because that's kind of the gimmick of two of the pairs I'd chosen, Skylar for potions and Iris for stats reductions there. So you start off with breaking swipes with Iris, because that's going to reduce all of the enemy's attack. You want that because Lance is going to be using mostly physical attacks. With Cyrus, you're using Water Pulse because the move gauge isn't going to be moving too quickly at this stage. You're using Take Flight with Swanna to get down to that first sync move. As always, Skylar syncs first. When you get into that second round of the battle, I started off with a 3 heads because that gives a sync move countdown reduction. I think it also gives a move gauge boost, which is good because if you're using 2 bars on a breaking swipes and then 3 on a spatial rend from Palkia, you're not going to have very much left over. You're continuing with your breaking swipes to reduce the attack of the enemy. Depending on the move gauge, when you've got it to -6, you can either use Snarl or you can use Dragon Rush to really get that damage going. Palkia is going to be using Spatial Rend for that dragon damage. I also used a New World Order with him just before the sync move, which I gave to him as the second one. Followed that up with a cheeky little potion for a bit of quick healing there. Skylar is either using potions on herself or on Cyrus, or she's using Gust, which is Bombard move, and you get that back anyway. So I gave the second sync move to Palkia. When Lance's came along, it wasn't doing too much damage, and I think that's because of all of the defense boost from Take Flight and all of the attack reductions from breaking swipes, so it's all good. So when I'd taken out Dragonite, I switched from using breaking swipes and Snarl to using Dragon Rush with Champion Iris just to get that big damage going. Altaria has Dragon Pulse as the move that it uses, so you can save her until last, take out the other side, because I think it might have an Earthquake or a something like that that hits everyone, and it should make the dragons go back into hibernation. Do dragons hibernate? Is that a stupid thing to say? I don't know. I really don't. And finally on to round 5, where Blue is waiting for us. His permanent condition is a physical attack reduction. I paired it with a special attack reduction, so nobody really had any advantage over the other. Could also have used a sync move stats boost. The team I went in with was Leaf and Eevee, Koga and Crobat, and Viola and Masquerain. I started off trying to do a bit of a poison stall with Janine in there rather than Viola, and I would have got it out eventually, but it would have taken, quite a few attempts and getting everything to go my way. It only really started getting easier when I went for the poison trap with Viola in there instead. So you start off with Poison Fang to get poison onto Exeggutor. You do the same with Infestation to get trap on there. You use a Let's Go with Eevee to boost that move gauge up again. If you don't manage to get poison right away, that will be helpful because you can have another go. You can also either put trap onto the sides, or you can start using Struggle Bug to get everyone's special attack reducing. Because you're using Struggle Bug, you want to make sure that you have stat reductions being allowed. You then move on to Tackle with Eevee, which can be a bit of a double-edged sword, because obviously you don't want to be taking the really big hits from Exeggutor, but Carnivine is going to be using Leaf Storm, which can put poison onto you, which can cause a lot of damage further into the battle, and the further you go, the more poison damage you're going to be taking. So be aware of that and have your potions at the ready for Eevee if that comes. When you get down to that first sync move, it is going to go to Eevee to give you those stats boost. You're then going on to, in that second phase, more Struggle Bug to get everyone's special attack going down. With Koga, you're using any X speeds that you haven't used previously. Move Like a Shadow as well to boost all of those other stats. It's less important in this battle than other ones because I had a crit hit shield on there as one of my conditions. They look a bit budget because I had a bit of a brain fart moment again when I finished it off, and I forgot to take a screen grab of my successful condition. So that's why they look like that and not like all the other battles. And then you move on to using Venoshock, and you get down to that second sync move. This one goes to Eevee as well because she can boost all of those stats, and that's very useful. At this point, Blue's going to probably be ready for his sync move. it's going to be okay. It's not going to do too much damage to you. The one thing you want to remember is that it gets a status clear after its sync move. So you've got to have Poison Fang queued up after that sync move to get that poison back onto there and start doing that damage. And then it really just becomes a war of attrition. So you've got to keep doing poison onto Executor so it takes poison damage. You can also do it onto the sides as well, because when they start attacking, you're going to need it on there. You're doing Struggle Bug with Viola. You can also use her trainer move that gives her the passive healing. That's always going to be useful after Blue's used its sync move. Evie is doing Tackle, hoping for flinching, but also to avoid being poisoned, and using those potions as well to keep everyone on the team topped up. You've got to reset poison after every single one of Blue's sync moves, which is a tad annoying. So I put gradual healing onto Blue. Eventually that is going to run out, and that's when it becomes much easier to take him down. Eventually that poison and that trap is going to take its toll and take him down. The priority after that is to take down Sylveon, because Sylveon has double-edged. Usually I say if it's only hitting one, you save that one until last. Double-edged is such a powerful attack in this situation that it's gonna one-shot Viola, one-shot Koga. Eevee probably has succumbed to poison herself by this point, so you don't have that support who's going to be taking those hits. And Carnivine's using Razor Leaf, which while it does damage, doesn't do loads of damage, so you can afford to take a few of those before you start getting into the red zone in terms of health. But if you are on the ball and you know your targets and you're going after the right ones all the time, it shouldn't be too much of a struggle for this one. It's just going to take time. And that's another 10k run over and done with. The last one of the year. So hopefully your champion stadiums in 2021 have been successful. Hopefully you've managed to reach the maximum number of points every week. I think at least since I started doing the series, I have been able to hit that maximum every week. But yeah, hopefully me little guides and me little how-tos have been helping you out a lot. Please let me know if they have, and if there's anything that I've missed that you think is significant to taking on the Champion Stadium and Masters mode. Outside of the Champion Stadium, it's been a busy week. So busy, in fact, that I forgot a number of the events in my introduction. So we're going to start off in the Legendary Arena, where Latios is back again. Its additional tasks this week are to use 3 from Hoenn, 3 Dragon types, and 3 Gym Leaders. So my first team was Salamence, Zinnia and Rayquaza, and Wallace and Milotic. So that gives you 3 from Hoenn, it gives you 2 Dragons, and it gives you 1 Gym Leader in there. My main focus for this first one was really taking out the 2 sides, so that for the other 2 teams I needed, I could really focus on Latios and take it down. So I managed to take out Dragonite, didn't manage to take out the enemy Salamence, but I thought, well, 1 out of 3 isn't too bad. In a way, Wallace was my main striker here, both in terms of doing trap damage and also in terms of using its sync move, because you get some healing from that. I wasn't very smart with my hard to starboard for that move gauge refresh. I think I wasted at least one of them. And because Salamence doesn't have a grid, you're not going to get any MP refreshes for that. So what can you do? I didn't get many attacks off because the move gauge was refilling quite slowly. There's no one with any great speed on this team. So there was a stage where I was attacking with Rayquaza, but I was only really doing, it was enemy move, my move, enemy move, my move. I wasn't able to stack attacks in there, which was a bit annoying. So yeah, you'll see from the screen grab there that I managed to take out Dragonite, did some damage to Salamence and a little bit to Latios there. That set me up to use my second team, which worked a lot better. So I had Palkia as my main striker, I had Skylar and Swanna, and Jasmine and Steelix as my 2 supports in there. So it was really just focusing damage with Palkia, and then your two sides are just trying to give him every opportunity to succeed there. And once its crit hit rate has been raised, Palkia with Spatial Rend really does do a lot of damage there, and it's about trying to protect it from big hits, so things like Surf, Earthquake, things like that will be taking its toll, so you got to make sure that you're using your potions wisely. I took out the enemy Salamence and then started focus down Latios. That works really quite well, and as you can see I managed to get it down into the third bar. So with this one you get 1 dragon type and 2 gym leaders, so that gives you all of the pairs that you need. You just need to take out Latios with your final 3 pairs. So I went in with a third team of Lily, Signasuit Blue and Blastoise, and Iris and Hydreigon. So you start off with Breaking Swipes to reduce that attack, and then Snarl to reduce that special attack. In a way, if I'd have known how good Palkia was, I could have switched those 2 teams around, because the stats reductions in there earlier might have been more helpful and might have helped my other teams to survive a bit longer. But I didn't know that when I set out, so I'm going to give myself a bit of a pass on that. Again, this is 2 6x supports, so you can get those massive stats boosts from those. Team Endurance from Signasuit Blastoise is always very helpful. And yeah, you just Breaking Swipes and reduce those stats, and then when they're low enough you go in there with Dragon Rush to really do some serious damage. And when you've completed those 3 challenges, you get a nice 1,000 gems out of it, which is always nice to have. Nice. Palkia has now been added as a permanent addition to the Legendary Adventures portion of the story, so you can get lots of tickets to power up your Palkia. If you've done it before, you can get lots of additional tickets to power up everyone else. There's also a full force battle in there. I like that format. I really did like that format. I thought it was a good one, and it's a shame that they don't do it anymore. But for my team there, I used Barry as a water type striker, Champion Iris is kind of a dragon type striker there, and then Hilbert and Samurott as my support. And I managed to breeze through all 3 rounds with that, and earn that medal and get even more tickets for myself. The latest event to land is a villain prelude with Team Galactic. They're kind of shadowing those as the next lot of bad guys to be coming along. You don't have any pairs that get bonuses for it, it's just a flat rate for everyone. There's no battle challenge or whatever they're called in there either. You see Signasuit Cynthia with her bat crown. She looks absolutely badass. There's also a bit though where she pauses and she goes, "Sorry, I was thinking of something else." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know that. Food, isn't it? Yeah, you're thinking what you're going to have for dinner. Yeah, I'm thinking what I'm going to have for lunch. Sorry, I was thinking of other things." There was also a message from the Pokemon Masters team. A lot of that isn't really relevant because it was about Christmas week and the bonuses and stuff, and Masters Day on the 25th. So unfortunately that has already passed. The main big announcement is that the Legendary Gauntlet will be landing on the 20th of January. So they've kind of been teasing this for a little while. It's advertised as the next end game content, if you like that kind of term. So you'll be powering up your sync pairs. It'll be, I see it similar in a way to the Champion Stadium, but instead of taking on enemies, you're taking on legendary Pokemon. I'm not sure though, we'll see when we get there. The Winter Wishes event ends this weekend, so make sure you get through and you do all of your tasks for that, and you use up any tickets and snow globes for those that you want to. We've been getting a few sort of seasonal greeting entry screens when you log into the game. My favourite one so far has been the one between Archie and Maxie, and they're like, "Right, we're battle," and then May comes in and she's like, "Stop it, come on, The final announcement that was made, there's a competition, so you get entered into it automatically when you log in. You can win up to 60,000 gems, which is a lot. It's like 5 prizes of those, and then it tiers all the way down. The minimum you can earn is 300 from it, and I think anyone gets a minimum of 300. So it's like, hey, 300 gems with the possibility for more. God, I would love to win 60,000 gems. And that is another week that was, the final week that was of 2021. So hopefully this year has been not too difficult for you. I know with all the things that have been happening in the real world, it's been another crap one really, but hopefully you and yours have all managed to get through it with relatively few scars. Hopefully 2022 will be a bit of an improvement over that. Happy New Year to everyone out there. I don't really like New Year's Eve. It's one of my least favourite holidays of the year. But hey, once you get it over with, you start afresh. So join me for the week that will be, the first week that will be of 2022. Thank you for joining me for the week that was, and thank you very much for watching this one, and goodbye.